everyone, and welcome to another Photo Mishmash. I'm Christina.
And I'm Toby.
And this is episode 54.
Back. It's back to us.
Okay.
Oh, right. I said I was going to do. This show is brought to you by Adorama Pics. We welcome a new sponsor. So exciting. We'll be talking a little bit later in this episode. And you Patreon supporters. Oh, man. Almost smooth. There we go. You Patreon supporters who are donating monthly and in return getting stuff for your monthly payments. We'll be talking a little bit later in this episode as well.
But now, in case you missed it.
In case you missed it, that's your catchy title for stuff that's happened in the last week that we have been involved in. Videos, blog posts. And I have to say, I was putting a list of what happened this past week. It's a little Lightroom heavy.
It's very Lightroom heavy, right? Well, Lightroom 6 was announced yesterday. It was announced and released yesterday.
Lightroom 6 or Lightroom CC?
Lightroom CC and 6. Hello, Liam. Come to pay us a visit.
Yes.
Did
you feed them?
And I did.
Okay,
yes,
good.
They were fed.
Cool.
So you released a video.
Yes.
Talking about Lightroom.
Yes. Hands-on Lightroom CC or Lightroom 6 and the changes that came along with it. I think you've heard of the changes. Well, let's start with the good news is no real big interface changes. No, that's a little distracting how much you're meowing, Liam.
Liam, stop it.
So there's no new learning curve there. There's just a couple of new features. The big ones, face recognition and,
the editing, the gradient tool.
Well, yes, that's my favorite feature. So you leapt right to that one. Being able to apply a graduated filter or a radial filter, which I think is really powerful and is overlooked by a lot of photographers. You show that in episode 3 of the Lightroom Beginner Series.
Yep.
But now you can really fine-tune, adjust that. And those folks who have purchased our Lightroom videos, we will be adding updates to show you how to use and take advantage of these changes in Lightroom 6 to those episodes that need it, and that's going to be free. If you've already bought the episode, there'll be an updated video in there. Not all of the episodes are going to need it because, as I said, the interface hasn't changed and there really are just these new features. The other ones I was struggling to remember is the in Lightroom HDR merge and photo merge for panoramas. They're nice. I might shoot HDRs a little bit more often because it's so easy, and even though the interface is really basic, the sample ones that I've made so far are the kind of HDR images I like. They default to just a nice image with a good amount of dynamic range that doesn't look necessarily like an HDR. Whereas a lot of other programs, the default look, and I was talking about this with somebody today about Photomatics, its default look is one of those images that doesn't appeal to me. There are some other people that love that, and there are times in certain ways that I like them, but basically I don't. Those overly saturated, overly artistic images.
Yeah.
Overly artistic HDRs, and it doesn't do those. It seems like it's not even capable of doing that. You really have very limited control. So some people who really like to do those are not going to be happy with this new feature. Some people who just want to play with it a little bit more. And then panoramas, very nice. The big bonus from the panorama feature is that you get a DNG file as a result, so very nicely edited. You do not have to do your editing on the individual files before you go into the panorama because the created panorama is just as much a raw editable file as those other ones were.
That's really cool.
Yep.
I wanted to try that on all of the panorama images that I've shot at engagement sessions and weddings that I never actually took out of Lightroom and into Photoshop to merge.
Right. Well, that's I keep meaning, I've got somewhere, we've talked about it before, the Brenizer method. That was popularized by Ryan Brenizer, who not only takes pictures in a panorama, but basically a huge, grid of photos, like a top row of 5, middle row of 5, and a bottom row of 5, and then stitches them all together. I read his post. He was one of the select few that was a beta tester. That was different about this version of Lightroom. There was no open beta, and the closed beta, as far as I can tell, was very limited to few individuals. Folks that I know who have had access to the closed beta in the past did not this time as well. So, for whatever reason. And he said that it does an okay job with the kind of multi-line panoramas, we'll call them, or the Brenizer method, as maybe we should call them. So, my Mac is big. Oh, you're using the Tamron 15 to 30 on there instead.
I am.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so...
Does my hand look gigantic when it gets here? Oh.
Probably does.
Put on your 3D glasses, folks.
Grab everybody.
Okay.
So another video this week on the channel was the Raw Doctor video.
I titled that Saturate Your Rainbows.
Saturate Your Rainbows. Great. Yeah, so go ahead and watch that if you haven't. It's kind of a less thorough explanation of some of the tools available to you in Lightroom, and I go step by step editing each photo, that not every photo that is submitted, but we choose a select few. And if you want to submit photos for future Raw Doctor episodes, head to photorec.tv/Raw Doctor.
I like how you specify /.
I'm just used to it.
Yeah.
Slash.
Right, and that's also the place I have combined and made a combo post there at Raw Doctor where you can submit for the monthly assignment. Do you remember what the monthly assignment term, challenge is?
No.
No.
Is it new?
No.
No, it's not new.
No.
I don't remember.
I guess you won't be participating. It is repetition.
Oh, right.
Repetition. And I posted on my Instagram account just a day ago or two an example that I shot. We were down in Maryland helping my mom move this weekend, and we kept passing this apartment building and walking out to dinner places that just had these railings, and it just worked really nicely for. But every time I passed by, the light wasn't perfect. I tried. I took a shot and be like, no, it doesn't quite work. Finally, one evening, I got a shot that I was happy enough to post and share. But there was fun comments on this Instagram post of mine from William, who said, he's been trying to do this now for a couple of weeks to come up with a good image for this repetition assignment, and he just hasn't had anything that wows him because either the light's not good or something doesn't line up right, and it's hard work. And I think that is true in a good lesson. Every once in a while you get lucky, but if you want to make a good image that wows you, most of the time it's going to be hard work.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. And I think your Raw Doctor episode was great. Took some feedback from the first one, and I saw one comment on the new episode that somebody said they liked the dog better before you edited it, and that that is where we get into that.
It's a personal choice.
Yeah, personal choice of kind of colors and tones and contrast used. There was somebody else who didn't really like the crop you used. So everything from how you crop an image to the tones really can change the feel of an image, and I love how you've walked through that in those, and we'll look forward to doing more. What we plan to do is 3 Raw Doctors a month, and then the critique for the monthly assignment, and we'll do that cycle continuously. Yeah.
Yep.
What else, in case you missed it this week? Well, the Lightroom hands-on, the Raw Doctor,
and Google Photo Story.
Google Photo Story. Yeah, this was a post. This wasn't a video. And I have been searching for a long time for fun ways to kind of combine travel, locations, and my photos into this kind of journal-y thing. And Google has come along, and they've actually been doing it for quite a while, at least a couple of months. It's starting to be polished enough that it's fun. And I did a post about that. And let me share my screen here and make the bottom a little bit bigger. And you can embed them as well. And so first one we're going to do here, here's Christina holding our cutest niece on the land. Well, technically, or technical niece yet, but getting close. And what Google does is it leaves your phone information about where you have been. Oh, I need to go live. This is a change to this now. Okay, here we go. There's Teva putting on Christina's glasses. The cover of this, click through, and what you get is this kind of cool Indiana Jones effect where it shows where you started, where you ended up, and then some pictures along the way. And you just kind of navigate to the right each time. And it shows you an image, and sometimes it's smart enough to know where an image was taken. I think it uses a couple different factors for that. Like, you know, this actually, we did not stop in New York City on the way down to my mom's in Maryland, but it does think that we did. And so then let's get into the actual travels. And so then here's some pictures I've taken, some with the cell phone, some with the Sony, which I would then transfer to the phone. So it will take from a variety of places. And if you've uploaded images into a gallery that kind of match the time sequence, it will use those as well. And because this was kind of a fun in quotes, it was a moving weekend, which means there was a lot of, and what I've taken here, pictures of things I found at Mom's house as we were packing. This Jane Fonda Prime workout, if you follow me on Instagram, that's a beta, ladies and gentlemen. No, she does not have a beta player. I don't think we ever, growing up, had a beta player, but somehow we ended up with that tape. So you just kind of click through, and it's neat. I like this setup. And you can edit it, and so you can go in and say, well, don't include, you know, this Jane Fonda moment. That's too embarrassing. Or don't include this location because maybe it is a restaurant I don't want anybody to know I ever went to, or something like that. Or here, don't include the water filter thing. So that's a downside, is down here it's got this water filter. I took a picture of that with my cell phone, as I often do, to remind myself what filter I needed when I got to Home Depot. I mean, I use my cell phone as a kind of a brain catch-all. So, you know, that's a downside in the way that I use my phone, and then Google Stories picks them up. But you can get to a more exciting one, Fiona's birthday trip, which has 69 photos in it, and it has a lot of the information correct, and all I had to do was upload my images, and plus the ones that I took on the cell phone, and it just pulled all of that automatically, which was pretty handy, and that's neat. And so I'd invite you to go check it out. Now, the other big downside of this post, I was like, in the past there's been other sites that kind of do this, but you got to cajole your friends and family to come over here at this new site. Maybe it even requires a login, and that's a huge piece of, or a huge block or friction for people. But you could make the same argument about this on Google.
Right.
You can make it public, and you can embed it in sites. And when it's embedded, notice it doesn't look so beautiful.
Right.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is I really plus in the Google Photos and some of the tools that they provide. I wish more people were there, and I wish it had caught on better. And I worry for the future of Google. Not Google.
Not Google, but
some
Google
of these products.
Plus. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was In Case You Missed It, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the week ahead. So our final Lightroom Series video will be released next week,
right.
So look out for that. Our goal is to have it to you on Friday. And after that, the price of, well, that is going to be on sale for the $249 sale price until the following Friday, the Friday after it's released. And the week after that, individual videos are going to go up from $249 to $499, and you'll be able to buy the bundle of all the videos for a discounted price. So if you haven't bought the videos and you have been meaning to, this would be the time to do it, because the price is going to go up next week. So yeah, that's kind of, we are getting close to wrapping up that series. And we're already working on our new series, which we will announce in the next few weeks.
It's exciting. Other things coming up in the week ahead is, well, right now we are shooting this video with a Tamron 15-30. I took that on the Seattle trip, shot with it a lot, and shared some brief thoughts with it. How does it stack up against the 16-35 f4 IS? Or, well, I'm even going to throw in, and I'll have a separate review of it, but it's going to be in this mix as well, the Sigma 24, the new art series, and then out of reach is the old standard Canon 17-40 f4L. It's a very nice lens, a lot cheaper, and sure, you're giving up IS or you're giving up f2.8, actually giving up both those things with it, but you know, it's a nice lens. And the other thing that I'll be in the next week is the Sigma USB dock, and we're going to get to a new story where this thing could be quite handy for some people. So this is this little USB dock that allows you to plug in the Sigma lenses, not all of them, some of them, and do easy micro focus adjustments to it, autofocus adjustments, firmware updates. So we'll be talking about that some more as well. And I rented this. You can rent this from Lens Rental. And Roy, I know people ask about these from time to time. Roy recommends finding your local camera shop and seeing if they have one, if you need access to it, because they'll let you come in and use it, borrow it. So,
yeah.
Should we move those away or leave them there?
Yeah, they're kind of...
Do you know aesthetic?
Well, it's just like they're not fully in the frame or
What
not
if we
fully
put them like
out
right
of the frame.
there?
That I don't have a problem with that actually.
What if I put them over here? Is that better?
Sure.
Okay.
So for the what else can people expect in the week ahead?
That's all I got. That's all I'm letting them know about.
Okay. You'll have to stay tuned to our YouTube channel and Facebook page to find out if there's anything else. And now we are going to move.
We forgot something big.
Oh, we did forget. Yes. So another. Let's just rewind real quick.
Are we on the
go
same
back.
page? Do you know exactly? You know what I'm going to say?
Let's go back to in case you missed it. Right. So if you are not a newsletter subscriber, or maybe if they don't follow you on Instagram, you probably
or
didn't
Twitter or Facebook
find out about the big giveaway that we're hosting on behalf
of Capture Beyond Limits, Peak Capture, or Peak Design, and Faisal. We have all come together to offer what is the biggest giveaway that I have ever hosted, over $1,300 worth of pretty awesome gear. Now, Capture Beyond Limits guys, they are offering their motorized slider. That's a big chunk of it right there. That thing retails for just over $800. I have a video up about that, and I'm going to be producing a separate video to talk about each of these products in the next week. That allows you to do really awesome motion time lapses or video slides. It's a big slide. It is the world's largest slider. And that's awesome. And sometimes you need a tripod with that. And Faisal has thrown in one of their awesome tripods that I'll be reviewing one of theirs soon as well. And then there's the Peak Design capture clip and clutch system. We're always looking for better ways to carry. Sometimes a bag isn't good because we want quick access to it. Sometimes a strap around the neck is annoying because it's bouncing. And these guys are one of the first that had come up with this kind of new wave of ways to carry your camera. And it's that kind of holster clip-on approach. You clip this device onto your belt, onto a pack strap, and on the bottom of your camera, you have, it looks like a little tripod plate, except it snaps into this capture clip and holds it firmly there. It also provides they're also throwing in a wrist strap so that you can, at times when you are in a spot where you don't want the whole strap. I can't tell you how many times a strap has annoyed me when I've been using it. But there are times where it's nice to have that little bit of added protection. Maybe you're leaning over a cliff or a balcony or something where if your camera slips, it would be really bad. I thought about that at that wedding, actually, where everybody laid down on the dance floor and had me take the star picture. And I thought, oh man, if I drop my camera right now, I'm going to ruin someone's night.
Yeah, every time, well, not just that, but every time I like try to take one of those shots where I like hold my camera over some kind of balcony or ledge or something, I'm like, I'm totally gonna just like, get butterfingers and drop it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It seems completely illogical because it's never happened. Have a pretty good grip on it, but...
Right. But it could happen. And if you had the wrist strap,
it wouldn't even matter.
it wouldn't matter. Because
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind. That's right. So, right below, oh, I didn't put it in the, I'm going to take a minute when Christina starts talking and put all of these show notes over underneath the video so that they're there for you to click links. Because there are going to be a couple news items. You know, we put a lot of news items in each week, and sometimes we just touch on them. Some I just want to make you aware of, like the really cool kind of Hubble space images. We're not going to take time to look at those, but I invite you all to go look at those at some point. So I'll put the link to the giveaway there.
In the show notes.
All you need to do is put in your email address, so you're subscribed to my newsletter, and go like the Facebook pages of these guys. It's a really easy way to thank them for providing these products. They don't have to do this, and they did. Also Rory mentioned it's not one person doesn't get all. There are going to be 3 winners. 3 winners.
See.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's cool. You could pick up one of these very nice items. I hope you win. Yeah. Yeah, Hugh. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's move on to our news section. And we are going to start this this section by talking about an article on the New York Times. Did you find this article?
I did find this article.
Okay. I didn't read it, so you're going to have to be the one to talk about it.
Okay. That doesn't give me enough time to paste over the directions, so just give me a second. This is the New York Times.
When can I do that?
World Trade Center. Oh, you can do that for me? Thank you.
Yeah.
The World Trade Center, or what is it? World Trade Center 1.
Memorial?
No, not the memorial, but the one.
Yeah.
It is called something Trade Center. There is a display in the elevator that runs a time lapse of what it's not a real time lapse of what New York City looked like from basically the beginning of what white people think of New York City before Native American, or yeah, you know what I'm saying. Up to present day, and it's pretty powerful. It's really interesting. I'm gonna switch over here and play it for you for a. We don't need that, but we want this and play. And there's audio sounds with it. Well, you can. Well, it's coming out of the Asus. So you can see New York City changing before your eyes in this animation with this little year as you're going up to the top in the observation tower. It's pretty neat. Of course, the word I was looking for was that it is, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not real. And you can actually see one of the original World Trade Centers. It's a simulation.
A simulation.
Simulation.
Got it.
Yes. So, but it's just neat to see this change of your eyes. And this part right here that they're going through is, in fact, all simulated in the seeing the inside of the doors and all of that stuff. So I thought that was really neat. And again, the links will be down there in a minute, and you can take a look at them. And from there, another page that takes you to this. They're working on this whole block by block video series of New York City, which is neat. So I thought that was neat, and it's a cool use of media.
Definitely.
So, Freedom Tower, thank you.
The Freedom Tower, yes.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm having multiple brain farts tonight.
Okay, so moving on, Yongnuo has released a 35mm f2 lens, which is a clone of the existing 35mm f2.
Yep.
What do you know about this lens? Is it good?
Well, I know very little about this lens. I know that Yongnuo is coming on strong with both their flashes and these kind of Chinese clones or copies of existing lenses. The one that came out a few months ago was the Canon Nifty 50, 51.8.
Yeah, which is, people have reported that it's way better than, or
maybe
comparable.
I have heard varying reports. Around the edges at 1.8, neither lens is very good. Some folks have said the Yongnuo is better. Some folks that I trust have said, no, it's not quite as good. And originally, when it first came out, it was selling for about 40 bucks. And then I think they realized that they had a winner on their hand, and it went up to about $85, $90. And you're buying it on eBay. Shipping's a little bit slow because I think most of them come direct from overseas. So, it's now much more, the 50 is now a much more comparable price. So it's not as exciting. I think you probably should just go for the Canon. The 35 at 122, that is a good sales price. Actually, if you go to Amazon right now, it says it is not in stock. But if you go to eBay, 116, I have to click this because the other little eBay link, I was doing some shopping on eBay myself. 116, free shipping. They got a good feedback rating because this is the Yongnuo folks direct. I'm a little tempted to pick it up and walk around with it in light. I tell you, it's nice. It's not as fast as the 50 because it's an f2, but it's a little bit wider focal length. And it has some slight macro capability. Notice that it does have a metal lens mount. And they show it there on a 60D. So, tiniest focus ring. Tiniest. It basically is the 35 f2.
Yeah, it looks very similar.
Which we don't talk about a lot because it's one of those lenses that's just a little bit above where I place a good value. You've got the 35-2 with IS, which is much sharper and has IS. It's bigger, it's more expensive in the range of about 550, I think. And yeah, you got the 40 f2.8, which is an excellent quality, much smaller. You got the 24 f2.8, which is also about 140. So this lens, I don't think many people are going to jump on this lens, other than the folks who like to say, "Oh, I'm trying something new."
Yeah.
And yes, on a crop sensor, Roger, 35 actually comes out to whatever 35 times 1.6 is. What is that? 50 something, 56, I think, last time I remember doing the multiplication.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, well,
from a cheap lens to a
really pricey one.
Yeah.
Sony is coming out with a new line of Zeiss lenses that have built-in OLED screens, which sounds kind of cool, but how practical is that really?
Well, it's I think it's moving to the future. So instead of having this little focus indicator, focus plates on them, we've got Zeiss's little promo video here. We're going to see it in action right there. So there you can see, let's see, it shows it again in a second, this little focus plate that is, instead of a mechanical dial, it is an actual little LED. Gosh, they didn't show it at all in this video. This is the worst. I watched this earlier, and I thought it showed it more. It sits up there and it tells you both focusing, distance, and focal plane information. So it sounds like it can switch back and forth between the two. There we go. I paused it right where it says Zeiss, and then I thought we saw it change once. No? Okay. So the other thing about these lenses is that they are autofocus capable, which most Zeiss aren't. Most Zeiss are manual focus, and these do allow autofocus and have OLED gauges there. I think it's pretty snazzy, especially here's where I think it's most useful. They don't look bright, but they look bright enough that you'd be able to see them in the dark. And in focusing on stars and trying to find your infinity in the dark can be very tricky. I usually use a little teeny red headlamp so that I'm not bothering my night vision.
Yeah.
But I think that's cool. They're not cheap. This link here says the pricing isn't out yet, but it is. B&H does have pre-order links, or at least they're on the list there. I think the 24 is, or the 25, sorry, is like $1,200, and the 85 is a little bit more, or maybe a little less. And and we should say these are for Sony. These are Sony lenses.
So will you be able to use it on the A7 Mark II?
Yes, that's exactly what it's for, out of reach over there.
Well, that is, Because that camera, that's already a pretty sweet camera. So
to have nice prime lenses like that, yes.
yeah.
Yes.
The other thing that this article says that it shows is your plane of focus. It tells the focal plane from the camera.
Yes.
So
right. Well, that's what a
right.
For folks who good lenses, or I should say more expensive lenses, have this little focus plate on them, focus indicator, and it tells you in feet and meters where your focus point is.
Right.
And that's what this does as well.
But it does it digitally.
It does it digitally.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's probably a little bit more precise, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I would think so. I would hope so. That would be nice too if it was precise. How often, let me ask you this, how often do you use this plate?
Not very often.
Not very often.
No.
We use autofocus most of the time and go from that. But I tell you, for landscapes and especially nighttime photography, I do use this a good bit. And that's why the STM lenses on Canon side are so difficult, because they not only don't give that to you, but they also don't even have hard stops. So there are some lenses that don't give this to you, but at least you can keep rotating until you feel the stop. Okay, that's infinity, or actually usually infinity is just in front of that. You go back a little bit, and then through trial and error. But those STM lenses, it's not impossible, but it's very difficult. What I usually do is focus on something as far away as possible that I can see, a house light or something like that. Especially with a wider angle lens, it does not have to be very far for you to hit that infinity mark. 200 yards, 400 yards, meters for people outside the U.S. that use the metric system.
Yep. All right, moving on. So this is kind of cool, even though it's not applicable to me personally, but I guess it is, though. So Adobe, it is and it isn't. So Adobe adds DNG file support to Lightroom on Android. So wait, so not on iOS. I thought it added DNG support on iOS.
No.
And then RAW on Android.
No. DNG. DNG on
Android
only. With a new Lightroom CC came out, Lightroom Mobile was updated, and they added DNG RAW support on the Android side. This means you can really files really on your tablets and your phones. Now, we have not been huge fans of Lightroom Mobile. It's just a little clunky. 2.0 is very nice. Now with these RAW capabilities, I'm going to take a second look at it. What I was looking around today is, I know there are a couple, Pentax is one of them, Ricoh is another, that will shoot, these are real cameras, DSLRs, that will shoot DNG. Oh, I should say why I'm saying this. Well, there are some new Android phones that, if they're 2.0 and have been blessed by Google, like the Nexus 6, they will actually can shoot RAW with their camera. So the Nexus 6, Google's latest flagship phone, you can shoot RAW with the camera. I mean, it's kind of exciting, but at the same time, you are still working with a tiny sensor.
Yeah. So how much dynamic range can it really have?
Yeah. But still, it definitely is going to give you more editing latitude than otherwise.
I guess the main thing is that, developments are being made and good things are coming in the future. So like right now, these probably you'll get RAW files with not the most dynamic range, but so it's good. It's progress.
But what I wonder is, can you, with the Pentax or the Ricoh, pull a DNG file in? A DNG is a DNG, so I'm going to say yes. And then you are being able to edit a full RAW file. The other way to do this is, of course, have your DNGs in the Lightroom on the desktop, sync a collection of these DNGs that will then go up to your mobile, go to the cloud, and then down to your mobile devices, and then you can edit as well. But what I'm thinking about, this brain, is really getting mobile, leaving my giant Big Mac behind it in the chat room, and really being able to edit with just a nice tablet or on the phone even my actual DSLR photos. I'd have to get a Pentax right now or Ricoh, but it's coming. It's coming. We've been thinking about going a little off topic here. I know you love that. As we are looking at our fall travel schedule, which we'll be talking more about McKay photography next week, but there are still spots available. And really traveling light, like really traveling light is so appealing.
Not just because you'll save a ton of money in baggage fees.
Yeah.
Which case?
Yeah. As we were booking tickets and looking at baggage fees. Oh, one bag here. Two. Anyway. So, I mean, because weekly or the vlogs, the daily vlogs and things like that, I probably won't be anytime soon that I'm really leaving my laptop behind, but I've had on my brain a nice travel camera and being able to travel lighter. So examples like this of being able to edit on a tablet are nice.
Yeah.
A really nice travel camera. It'll be interesting to see what comes out over the summer.
I think, I mean, the
Sony A7 Mark II.
Yeah, that's such a nice camera.
It's very light, very good quality, fast enough. Although, I even though my review has been out of that, I was continuing to use it over the weekend. It was the camera I took with me. And not quite toddler. So if you have toddlers moving around or
really fast
toddler nieces, it's not as fast as a DSLR. That's clear. I said that in my review, but it was made very clear to me as I was trying to capture this cute, adorable Teva doing all kinds of cute things and getting a little frustrated because there's just that hesitancy and focus at times.
And she ended up just being a blur most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Great. So next this is kind of crazy. Sigma has released a service notice regarding live view incompatibility on the Canon Rebel T6i and T6s. So what is going on, Canon?
Well,
what is happening?
Well, here's the thing that people forget sometimes and then are fairly rudely reminded like this. The mounts for Sigma, Tamron, all third-party lenses, not the physical mount, but the whole kind of electronic connection from camera brain to lens brain is reverse engineered. Because Canon and Nikon aren't like, here you go, here's how to make your lenses work perfectly with our cameras. So they have to reverse engineer it, and they don't always get it right. Or, for those who are a little bit programming, you kind of think of it as an API. Or Canon makes a change, and they don't care because their lenses still work fine. They know that. They don't make changes that break their past lenses. But it does sometimes break lenses. This used to be a bigger thing I used to see people talk about more. At some point in the future, your lens could completely stop working. And the reality is, what Sigma's saying here is, okay, we basically have in live view a select number of lenses, and I'll put the list up on the screen here, that will kind of crash in live view. Just they're not going to work. You're not going to get anything out of them. But they'll fix them. Sigma's good like that. Sigma's even good enough to say, we'll change your mount for you for a small fee if you switch from Canon to Nikon or Nikon to Canon. So they'll do both of those things. So there's a selection here of a couple of models. Now, you can see them, 17 to 50 f2.8, 18 to 250, 70 to 200 f2.8, 50 to 500, the 120 to 300, and the 150 to 500. These aren't lenses that have sold in huge numbers and that I don't think many people with a T6i or T6s are going to be snatching up, but certainly some people are going to run into this. And we've got some discontinued ones too, the 17 to 70, which I'm curious, they have a newer version of the 17 to 70 that is not discontinued, so I don't think that's the one I'm currently recommending. I need to do research to make sure. 18 to 200, 18 to 250, and then some other newer versions of the 50 to 150, basically what was on the list above before. None of their really new nice primes are on here. None of their new longer telephoto lenses are on here. But how do you get it fixed? Well, if you have access to one of these USB docks, as I mentioned we're going to talk about, we're talking about it now, you can plug this in and update the firmware. It's just a simple firmware fix. If you don't have one of these and don't have any access to it, it is going to require a trip into Sigma, I believe. And I should also say that not all lenses are compatible with the stock, so some of these lenses will still need to go back to Sigma. And that's a bummer.
Yeah.
But turnaround time should be fairly quick. And again, I think this is a fairly small number of people that are going to be affected by this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay.
So here is a cheat sheet that you found.
Let me open that up.
It's a photo cheat sheet card for photographers, and it shows you different. Oh, it's actually quite neat. It shows you.
It's the first time you looked at it.
It is the first time I've looked at it. It's a graphical representation of all the different apertures, and so the F number and then what the photo will actually look like, as well as shutter speeds and when trying to capture speed or movement, and ISO relative to noise in your photos. So this is really cool. It's from Hamburger /photospots.de.
Yep. German site. I love that we are learning some German words here. I think is shutter speed, Zeit.
And ISO is the same.
Yep. A couple things I want to point out. One, this is good. Did you get the show notes underneath the video?
I did.
Okay,
yes.
great.
So the link is down below if you want to follow along.
The link to followed and go give this person $1 for making this nice thing. If you want, is good. Let's go across the top real quick with aperture, and I think it exaggerates a little bit. And I've been doing some reading lately about the 5DS and diffraction, how quickly diffraction can set in. That is the issue where when you shoot with a really small aperture, like usually f22, f32, you're actually starting to negatively impact your image quality. Usually you think of the smaller your aperture, the more everything is in focus, the sharper your image. But you get to a point where the reverse starts to happen because of diffraction. And with some of these nicer, newer cameras, you really start to hit diffraction sooner than many people expect. And again, this example across the top ignores focal length. Focal length has a huge impact on this. But I'd say that I rarely go above f11 unless I'm trying to cut out a lot of light to do a blurry water long shutter speed during a lot of light picture, And I would caution people. I know there's some people out there that go up to those higher amounts very easily when they're taking a scenic picture and it's overkill. You don't need to do it. So I wanted to say that first. Second thing is shutter speed's good. Shutter speed's great. Third thing is the ISO looks like they're having a little party with confetti. That's what I like. So It's like ISO 25,000. It's party hard!
Hey, I want more noise in my photos.
I want more confetti in my photos. But no, this is really useful, so I like this. So that's good.
Yeah.
Good. You've been skipping over some of the news stories.
No, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't? I put some of the news stories in a weird order then.
Did you?
Yeah, because they were supposed to have.
Well, we don't need to talk about all of them because we have our discussion to go over. So let's actually move on to that right now.
Well, let's mention 2 links that we didn't talk about, but I want people to go look at. One is Hubble Anniversary, images that it's made of the universe. Amazing, beautiful, gorgeous. And also it's National Park Week. And Mashable had a really nice collection of like 20 or 25 gorgeous national park pictures. Just kind of fun, inspirational pictures. Nothing jaw-dropping amazing, but just very nice pictures. Go take a look at that. And also Happy Earth Day, everybody. It is Earth Day as well. Happy Earth Day, Christina.
Happy Earth Day.
Yeah. Before we get into our discussion, though, let's take a moment and sponsor Adorama Pics.
I thought we were going to lead with the discussion.
Oh, do it then.
So this week we actually we are going to talk about a question that was posted in Lightroom or in our support group. So just a reminder that if you are a Patreon supporter, you have access to this closed private Facebook group where we participate and answer questions, and other people come and chime in as well. So it's a really great community. Lots of people are able to help each other out, whether it's a recommendation of some kind that they are looking to buy a new lens, a new camera, or just have different questions about the business of photography or just shooting in general. This week, our viewer and supporter Janine Churchwell posted what I thought was a really good question, which I am going to try to find right now and read out to you. And we're going to talk about it a little bit. I will maybe read some of the questions or the answers that were posted by other users, and I'm going to also talk about the answer that I gave Janine. And hopefully you guys in the chat will also chime in and add to the discussion.
Well, that's what I really like about the support group is one, how nice, how nice everybody is to each other and helpful. People post these questions and get lots of good, solid answers, not just our answers, which is really nice. Thank you, people.
Yes. So look, Janine's question was, I am wondering if anyone has ever struggled with clients not liking their photos because when they look at the images on calibrated monitors, the photo coloring, warmth, darkness, or lightness is different than on your calibrated monitor. So some people commented and they said that, that hasn't happened to them. And actually that hasn't happened to me either. But it is a good point. I mean, not a lot of people talk about this, or that my clients experience this, that when I deliver pictures to them, they're not going to look the same to them as they're going to look to me and my monitor, because there is variation from monitor to monitor, especially if you are using, from computer to computer, like if from this laptop to that laptop to the monitor where we're keeping track of everything right now, which is an Asus monitor, to your monitor, everything all looks different because it's different hardware.
The conditions they're viewing it in, remember the blue, black, gold, white dress?
Right. Well, so yes. So let's talk a little bit about viewing pictures on your monitor. So I believe that so LCD, the color of the LCD screen affects the white balance and the colors in general of your photograph when you're looking at them on the screen. So if you have a monitor that has a little bit of a bluer or magenta tint to it, then all of your photos are going to look like that. Sometimes, so Toby, you have you work on two monitors, work on this monitor, on this laptop, and then on the Asus monitor. And the Asus is just a little bit bluer than the Mac monitor.
Right.
And that drives me insane when we're color correcting and looking at pictures, because that's not the way that I'm used to looking at them. And I know, because I, have seen them side by side, I know that the Asus has just a little bit of a blue tint. So that the Asus was like my main monitor that I was editing on, I would probably edit my pictures a little bit warmer than I would if I was using my Mac laptop because of the blue tint.
Right.
So, things that you can do are calibrating tools and try to calibrate your monitor as best as you can. You can just shop for really good monitors. I think that's a great investment when you have the money to be able to invest in a really nice monitor.
I keep meaning to put together a nice list of some monitors most of the Dell IPS panels are very good, and then of course the Apple panels are very good as well.
The Apple panels, they're great also because they, right out of the box, they're accurate.
Usually, yep.
So that's that's one of the reasons that I like Apple so much as well, is that I really love their LCD screens. So anyway, so back to the question. Some people said, I just want to go over some of the.
Well, I think I didn't write an answer yet, but I think my first suggestion is if you are fairly sure that is the answer, then you may nicely say something to the sort. Now, I've edited these images on a carefully corrected monitor, and I understand not everybody's monitor may be color corrected. If you are seeing differences that are making you unhappy, maybe we should talk about how you can calibrate your monitor. And there are some sites you could just send them to say, make sure the green is green and they're getting the full gamut range in there as well.
Yeah, so, a lot of people said What you just said, just
Oh.
remind them that, that different monitors have different, I mean, we have no control over that unless you say, look, buy this monitor, or like you give them a monitor as part of their package so they can hook up to the computer and make it work. There's no way to control it, right? So my answer was that this is a really great opportunity to educate your client on the value of printing their photos, particularly printing them professionally, having you handle the printing process for them. Because while there might be a lot of variation from monitor to monitor, photographers will know how to create prints that match edited on their screen. Deliver that to the client no matter where they look at it. I mean, they could look at it under a tungsten light and it'll look slightly different than if they look at it by window light, because it's the same issue of light of the the color of the light is different and it'll affect the tone slightly, but it'll remain a lot more consistent, and there will be less variation when they show it to somebody or when they move it to another room and things like that. So, and also the technology is going to change over time. I mean, we don't know what monitors are going, probably they'll look better, but you'll have edited a certain way. So who knows what it'll look like on a different monitor 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Not to mention the resolution will be different, and there are all these different factors that will affect the way that your client views their photo. This is why you really should stress the value of printing images and present to them a lineup of products that you like, that you're proud of, that you can create for them and sell to them. The other option, which is something that I do, is instead of selling, I'm not much of a salesperson. I'm not very good at that, so I just sell online. Mainly, I post my online galleries, and people buy prints. But you can also, if you're selling digital files, then you should include a care sheet telling them where they can take their photos to print. One of the places that I list the first place that I list on my care sheet is Adorama Pics, because I trust their service and I have used them before, so I know that they're reliable, they're consistent, and they're gonna do a really good job, as opposed to like clients taking them to like Walmart or CVS or Target, where
Right.
Sometimes
they do a good job, but sometimes you got
right.
Joe Schmo
You
working
have
behind
no
the
idea
counter
who is
pushing buttons.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Joe. I work
Right.
in a button factory.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just like to say things and see what she says. You got more to say?
No.
Okay. So that's why, well, I mean, one of the things that we've been really blessed with and excited about is being able to have sponsors that we would recommend anyway.
Right.
And Adorama Pics is one of them. As you just heard Christina say, that's on her list for where you should get pictures printed. And when people have asked me in the past, Adorama Pics has been on my list. Why? Because they provide this consistent quality. What they've been doing it for a long time, and you're going to get excellent results. And their prices are reasonable as well. They've really expanded well beyond prints, though. And this example that we have back here right now is a picture that we made when we were out in the Pacific Northwest, picture that I made. It's a sunset picture. I told Christina it was a sunrise, so she would like it better.
I don't have anything against sunset pictures.
It's just our shtick now that you hate sunset pictures, so we just have to go with it every once in a while. And I have wanted a metallic print for a very long time, and I thought this is the print to do it with because it already has this glossy reflection down here. Now, this is a print that is going to be very difficult to show how wonderful. Well, you can see the light we're using. See, nice. To show its real value, you need to see this in person. It is printed on a sheet of metal with this nice backing that allows us to hang it immediately. None of that fussy framing stuff. It's gorgeous. I love it, and I think it works so well. And the first thing I did was bring it right up to my eyes and to check the quality and the detail in the little bits of stuff that are on the beach and in the branches in the background. It just worked out really, really nicely. It's not going to live here full time. It's going to go up someplace nice in my office where I can see it and not reflect to you all everything that's going on. But we are in this age of flinging our digital files all over the place and then kind of forgetting about them. And having a nice print on your wall of a picture that you made is wonderful. And it's lovely. It's fun to be reminded of a place and a time you've been. It's fun to have friends over and be like, ooh, that's a neat image. And you'd be like, yeah, I took that. So we thank Adorama Pics for their sponsorship. And next week, we're going to be talking about photo books. Mother's Day is around the corner. And let me tell you, for those folks who have kids and want to present to grandma or your mother, a photo book of the kids. It's so easy. They love it. And again, photo books, they've been around for a while, but they still have this kind of ooh factor when you open it up and it's all your pictures. And that episode 8 that went out was about building photo books. It was not specific for Adorama Pics, but it's easy to do, and it's just fun to create the story in the book or to create a collection of images. And I'm talking too much about next week, but it's just exciting. It's so much fun. So go get some pictures printed. Go get some pictures printed from Adorama Pics. We thank them for the support. And we're working on getting you a coupon code. We're working on that. Just didn't happen right before this show. So live folks, sorry, but check back underneath this video. Maybe even tomorrow, because I think it's going to come in any day now. So, and I see folks in the chat rooms that have used Adorama Pics and I think are happy. And I saw somebody type, Liam is happily sleeping in the recliner. And I was like, what, they could see that from the reflection?
It was me.
But it was Christine. So.
Well, somebody said that we scared him away. And we didn't scare him away. It's just snoozing on the recliner.
I was going to lead right into the next sponsor, which is Patreon, and talk about...
But we already talked about Patreon.
Did we enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the beginning.
But that does remind me to take a moment and hit that thumbs up button to thank us for this show. It's an easy way to thank us for our time. And of course, if you're watching this and you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. We are... I embarrass myself too, but I was going to say we are chewing. We're chugging along towards 100,000.
We're very close.
I think we should throw a ISO 25,600 party when we get to 100,000. Do you get that joke?
An ISO what?
25,600 party. It's back to that cheat sheet, the confetti.
Oh. Okay.
All right.
So that was our discussion for today.
We have some reader questions?
Yeah, but before that,
We've upgraded the chairs as well.
Don't leave... Yeah, we did. Don't leave it on the chat, but leave it in the comments. What would you like us to discuss in the future? We try our best to come up with good topics to talk about, but...
we will want to hear because you're watching the show, we want to hear what you want to talk about.
Yes.
Which reminds me, we had a reader question that we were going to use as discussion last week a little bit. And I'm going to lead off with this because it's still kind of discussion-y because we're going to be doing most of the talking.
Sure.
And that was from Ben. And he watched my NX1 review. And I mentioned EFL, effective focal length. And he's going to go off on his tangent here. And he understands the concept of equivalency, basically what we were talking about when we were talking about the 35 millimeter before being kind of 56-ish on a crop sensor. But why it's used for crop sensors. Why do we make this transition to full frame focal lengths on a crop sensor, or basically vice versa? What he thinks everyone's really trying to discuss is the concept of zoom from a point and shoot world. The concept's not going to make sense. Learn the size of your sensor, and I'm paraphrasing some of this question here. A lens with a 21 millimeter focal length will give about a 1-to-1 zoom. 40 millimeters is about a 2x. His 55 to 250 will give him about a 2.6x to an almost 12x magnification. I know this is imprecise, but it works just like my shutter speed cannot be any slower than my focal length. Maybe full-frame junkies don't want to be caught dead talking about zoom, just like they don't want a touchscreen. However, zoom is... Actually, I love touchscreens. However, zoom is the concept they're thinking about when they choose a 400mm lens for a sports event or take a picture of a bird in a tree on the other side of the meadow. It's nice vision. That's nice imagery there. Converting to a 35mm equivalent is completely unnecessary, 35mm being full frame, to understand the concept. A full frame user is going to have so much dollars invested that they will know their sensor size and how to use lenses. All they really need to know is the sensor size of the camera that's being discussed, although they can get along. Well, questions like this don't help, Ben. I enjoy the disagreements you and Christina have. Those discussions are more enlightening as she explains why you are wrong. Well, Ben, I may be missing the point of your... well, first off, let me say this. Yes, I think many beginners get in and they want to know when they buy a lens... The 16 to 35 is not a great example. Let's say the 70 to 200 or the 55 to 200. They want to know how much zoom is that going to give me. They're coming from a point and shoot world where they bought a little Sony RX 100 that has like a 3x zoom or a 3.7 zoom. Or maybe they're coming from one of those Canon super zooms with 50x zoom. That's a lot of zoom. Those cameras said zoom. Why don't these DSLRs say zoom?
Say that again?
I just pretended like everything froze up.
Oh.
Just to keep people thinking. Why don't they say zoom? Well, you point out that you need to know your sensor size. And that right there becomes the issue. And I think when we try to do zoom, we're trying to do it from what our eyeballs. Like, if I put a pair of 8x binoculars up to my eyes, I am suddenly closer to that bird. Or whatever I'm looking at with binoculars.
Right.
The bird on the other side of the meadow. With our lenses and our sensor sizes, we get all of these other variables mixed in that I think camera manufacturers don't want to get into because it's just going to confuse people. We have... Oh, that was a bean meow.
That was Bean.
See if you all can learn the difference.
Bean.
It's a higher pitch, more pitiful sound. You have your viewfinder magnification, which impacts your view, and
just in some cameras more than others.
Mm-hmm. You didn't really want to talk about this because it's got so many variables it gets confusing.
Yeah, well, I think the main thing though is that what we've said in the past, that stop getting so bogged down on the details of like how much zoom and just put a camera in front of your face and take pictures, and then you're just gonna learn what a 35mm looks like. And what I understand where he's coming from. I
think I do too, but I think that I don't see this being a discussion that camera manufacturers can get behind any more clearly than using full frame. At some point somebody decided we're going to talk about full frame equivalencies, and that's what stuck. And I think zooms, or amount of zoom is in many cases even more because...
Right, because the thing is if you have like, let me just make these hypothetical lenses up. If you have okay, this is then hypothetical, a 10 to 20 lens, right? That's a 200x zoom, right? If you have a 200, that's a 200x zoom, right? So...
No. What? No.
Wouldn't it be?
No. So I was going to teach people the simple way to figure out... Well, first off, the other problem is, what do you do with a lens that starts wider than your...
not 200x, 2 times zoom.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
2 times,
so 10 to
2
20 is 2 times zoom, not 200.
Right.
And then 100 to 200 is a 2 times zoom also. So they're different focal lengths. You're going to get different looks with both of them, drastically different looks with both of them, but they're both 2 times zoom. Right. So that's why you don't that way.
Well, right, and also if you started with a lens that's at 16, which is kind of wider than natural vision, and I just spent a few moments. Did you paste this whole document in the thing?
And it was too long, so I cut off from the questions.
Okay, I'll get 2 links to really geeky but interesting Stack Exchange discussions about focal length millimeters to X times, and what focal length really kind of approximates the human eye as well. When, on a full frame sensor, it decides
50-ish.
50-ish, okay,
Yeah.
or 35 on a crop. But so a wider lens, are you going to start to say it's a negative zoom? So this goes from negative or, yeah, negative 1x to 3x. But what the only thing you can really do reliably is look at an individual lens and say what its zoom is going to be from its widest focus point to its most narrow, and you know what change that is. And Christina just gave you an example. The 16 to 35 is also a 2x zoom. You take the higher by the lower number, and your number is your zoom. So the 55 to 250 is what? 3. No, that's 4. 250 divided by 50. 5. It's a 5x. I can do math. Yeah.
So I understand where he's coming from. This is like his point of view is that it's a good way to sort of ease people who are coming into the DSLR world in, you know, what each focal length represents, how to sort of be able to tell from one focal length to the next, but I think that's not the right way to approach it. I think that you're just going to confuse yourself more than going to help you. So.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, that's understandable.
Yep. Okay. Moving solidly into reader questions. We had one from last week that we didn't get to. Cameraplex wants to know, what cloud backup do we use? And I thought about like dancing around this question. Don't reliably use one.
Well, because we don't really need to use one.
Well, that's true. Your backup system, I would like to. I would feel happier if I had a completely automated system, and I have at times used Crash Plan. I like their setup and the way that you can back up a friend's house to an external drive. This one program takes care of all of that, and you can pay them a little bit of money to back up to their online storage system. That's who I would use. So very good. I keep running into poorly separating my photos from my huge, gigantic video collection that I, at times, when I was feeling very optimistic, pushed the backup button to different online services and saw things like 28 days will take to back up. Now, some of these services allow you to send in a hard drive. So you could back up to a hard drive to get that initial backup. But very often, you know, I'm making these videos with the GH4 now and shooting at 4K at times, gigabytes of files in 10 to 15 minutes. So actually a little bit less than that, a little bit less time. So I back up locally to a drive, and photos I get off my computer as quickly as possible to the sharing sites as full JPEGs, and then back up RAWs to the SmugMug Vault, which I am still using it now, but I'm slowly transitioning all of my photos, personal photos, family photos, over to Google. Even though at the beginning of this video I said I was a little worried about Google Photos.
Yeah, well, it's better than nothing, right? They're gonna like say, oh, peace out, goodbye to all your pictures. They're gonna announce ahead of time, like they did with Google Reader, which was, it's still to date, most disappointing product that Google has shut down. I love Google Reader.
Okay.
And yeah, so they're going to give you a heads up.
Yep.
And in the meantime, you've got a good backup of your pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Rose says that she has been using Crash Plan on your advice.
Mm-hmm.
I've used Crash Plan in the past too. I like it. I mean, it gives you lots of free options. You can back up to your friend's computer.
All those things.
Sorry, I was
You're
reading
the chat. I know. Okay. Deepak Murthy, do you think video will be a big part of a photographer's arsenal? Do we want to get in that discussion again? Deepak, I think you may have not watched videos.
Welcome, Deepak.
Where I do think it is going to play a part. Well, there's a couple different ways to answer this. One, we're hearing more and more photojournalists are being asked to know how to shoot video. And that is Canon XC10 camera is designed for, someone who needs to do both, and that is a lot of photojournalism these days. Now, even further in the future, we've had a lot of discussions, so we're just going to be brief here and say that I think in some ways we will be always shooting video. I'm just putting quotes around everything I say right now for some reason, and pulling still frames out of those. So, yes, I do think video will play a large role in the photographer's arsenal in the future.
I have a different opinion about that, but we won't go into that this time because we've gone into it many other times.
Now, last week Craig asked about ETTR. What's ETTR?
Exposure through the, well, that's ETTL. That's what ETTL means. I don't know what ETTR means.
You do. Exposure to the right.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah.
Did you come up with that term on your own, or?
Oh. That? You just say exposed to the right. Yeah.
Got it.
We talked about it a good bit last week, and Craig had a follow-up question. One of ETTR versus HDR. They seem to be opposites, but how can they complement each other?
I would say they're opposite,
Say either.
but they're very different.
ETTR is, especially on Canon cameras, it means exposing a little bit to the right, overexposing just a tiny bit. Be careful not to blow your highlights. That will give you just a little bit more dynamic range. Sensor gives the sensor just a little bit more breathing room as far as dynamic range goes. An HDR is where you take 3 or more. Actually, you can only take 2. Oh, I wanted to see. I haven't tested this yet. I want to see if you can do a fake HDR with the Lightroom's new system. And that is where you take one raw file and make 2 virtual copies of it. One you overexpose, one you underexpose, and then you sandwich those together. Because
you can, however,
yeah,
you're still limited to the dynamic range of the original photo.
Right.
So you're going to have like an HDR looking photo, but you're not going to have a true HDR because, again, you're going to be limited.
Is that any different? Will your results be any different than just jacking your highlight sliders down and your, because you're
probably not very much so.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're doing. I mean, you're bringing up your shadows, you're bringing down your highlights, and then you're pasting all those together, blending all those together. Right. So why not just do it in Lightroom without having to do that?
Okay, so back to this question though, they can complement each other because you are capturing an image with a different set of exposures that's going to get more detail out of the shadows or lights, even with ETTR, and sandwich them all together. So yeah, works good. It's good. You can do HDR slightly overexposed and slightly underexposed. It doesn't have to be a perfect center exposure, a perfect 1 stop over, 2 stops over. You can have it all shifted a little to the right or a little to the left, depending. And then, Craig, you've been using Magic Lantern a lot, it seems like, because you've got a post that you've been using the audio remote shot mode, which I teased that a while ago, and I want to show that in a video. That is with cameras running Magic Lantern. You can clap or set a trigger so that a loud noise will make the camera fire. Its microphone is listening, and it will use that as a trigger to make the camera actually take a picture. That's, again, I talked about Magic Lantern last week because it's, if you've got a camera that supports it, it adds nice features to your camera, and in most cases runs very stably. What's it doing outside?
It's just raining, but John just said that it's snowing where he is, which is Niagara, which is further up north than we are. Okay. So I was just checking.
Thank you, John and Christine, for that weather report. So he's now using this to capture lightning. He sets it out sets his camera in a dry location protected from lightning and the rain, sets it on that audio so it hears the thunder, it opens up the shutter. Now, that's not going to work perfectly every time because the lightning comes before the thunder. So you will be capturing a bolt from a different stroke of lightning. But still, if you got all that going on, he's got a post here that it captured. This is on the Facebook page, the questions, if people want to see. I've never used that before. I've never used Magic Lantern before. One of the things that I was excited about getting that Trigger Trap ADA that was the failed Kickstarter campaign was because it did have a light detector that could be used for lightning. The other way, there's a couple different ways to capture lightning. One is, the cheapest, is to just open up your shutter 10, 15, 20 seconds at a time during a lightning storm and hope a bolt happens during that time. You can do longer and keep your shutter, or keep the front of your lens covered with a dark cloth or something. And then you get those. Or you can buy an expensive device that is fast enough to communicate to your camera that it saw a lightning flash, camera opens its shutter, why that happened, and you capture it. They're expensive, $300 to $400 usually. So those are the two ways I know, and this seems like another option that might work. So it's good. I think that's all I got here from.
We didn't get a lot of questions from the chat. I saw Roy ask a couple of times to see if there were people that had questions. And I do see a couple of articles here or links from Stack Exchange. Oh, these are related to the previous question, actually. So never mind. Not a lot of reader questions today.
In the chat says, my friend has a question. What is a full f-stop in f-value or ISO or shutter speed?
No, what is a full stop?
Oh, what is a full stop?
Yeah.
In f-value or ISO or shutter speed?
That is a great question.
Well, it's a halving or a doubling of the amount of light coming into your camera.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're typically f2.8, f5.6, f11, right? Those are full stops. Shutter speed,
1/100th of a second, 1/200th of a second,
Right.
1/400th of a second.
Most of the time, our cameras allow for third of a stop control. So every time you rotate the dial 3 times, you're going 1 full stop. Now, you can go 1 full stop and not hit what people typically refer to as the typical stops, but you are still changing a full stop. You know, going from f3.2 to whatever.
Yeah.
ISO gives you full stop. Some cameras gives you third stops.
Yeah. So our Canons,
5D
Mark IIIs, you can actually change it from 2/3 increments to 1/3 increments.
Half increments to 1/3 increments.
No, I thought it was 2/3. 2/3 to 1/3. But anyway, but the default is 1/3, and I believe that is, well, I can't say that that's all Canon cameras because...
No, the Rebels do not.
The Rebels
are
don't.
100, 200, 400.
Yeah, so...
full stops.
So that's... So it's... And you can also
That's something else Magic Lantern will allow you to do, 1/3 stops.
Yeah, and you can also increase or double or increase your exposure by a stop or decrease it by a stop based on distance as well. So if you are, I don't know if you guys have heard about the inverse square law, which is, maybe we'll talk about it in an upcoming episode. But basically, based on the distance where your light is reflected, so, incident light. So incident light is when the light that is coming towards your camera, and then there's reflected light. This is the light that is bouncing off of your subject. So based on the distance from your camera to your subject, you're going to have differences in stop, or you can, based on the distance, you can measure the difference in stops. And it's a little bit more of a complicated formula. So maybe we should read up on that. And tell people about it.
I'm going to pull the cheat sheet back up because this exactly illustrates, and they're using full stops here, but many cameras are capable of doing aperture of like f2.2 and in other numbers in between these. But these are full stops of aperture, shutter speed, and then of course ISO. Not all cameras do 50 or below that, and again, many cameras do thirds and things of that sort. All right. I saw somebody ask for a recommendation for the Canon 6D macro lens, and Dalibor nicely replied the Tamron 90mm. I agree. It's a very nice lens for the money. The other option is the 100 from Canon. The non-L is very good, but if you want a very versatile lens that lets you do nice macros handheld, the 100mm f2.8 LISUSM is quite good. And if you just want to dabble a little bit, the extension tubes, $70, are quite good. And I talked about a lot of that. Search my channel or search YouTube for Macro Toby. And it's not a video of me really small. It is a video I've done about macro options for Canon cameras.
Yep.
Okay. I can't see the time. I have no idea how long we've been going.
We've been going for almost an hour and a half.
I'm hungry though.
Yep. Says, my friend sent me this chart in a text. Is it? Oh yeah, it is Cameraplex. It is a viral thing because I just saw Lifehacker posted it too.
Oh yeah, that's where I found it. I found it on Lifehacker.
Yeah.
But I linked directly to the German folks who came up with it because I thought that was better than reading Lifehacker and then going to they should get the credit directly for their website. I try to do that often, going direct to the source. We didn't ask this. I asked this on my Lightroom video. I am curious, now that Lightroom 6 and CC is out, how many of you were standalone users will now be upgrading to CC? And how many of you are happy to continue using Lightroom 5? And how many of you are going to be upgrading to Lightroom 6 standalone? And I have to wonder, is this the last version of standalone? Or will they continue to?
I think they will continue it.
You do?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't remember who asked me now, but somebody asked me to make comparisons between Capture and Lightroom. I have only just dabbled a little bit in Capture One, but what I can say is, one, they've moved to a subscription model too. Capture One is a Lightroom-like program with a nice raw engine made by a company, not Adobe. And is it Phase One, I think, is who makes Capture One, and they are medium format camera makers as well. It seems to be a little bit more of the professional tool of choice. Its raw engine may be a little bit better than Adobe's. Its learning curve or its interface is a little steeper than Lightroom. And its tethering system and tools are excellent. I shouldn't bother looking at you because you're just answering chat questions and not paying attention. So there are benefits to it, but it is a steeper price. It's $300 outright or $10 a month, and you only get Capture One. Nice, $9.99, or folks, what is today? Today's the 22nd. You have until the end of the day tomorrow, if you're thinking about going into the Creative Cloud subscription, to go to B&H and save yourself $20. I'll make sure there's a link to that right down below. They're offering that $99 for 1 year of the Creative Cloud to Lightroom and Photoshop. And that's a really nice combination. That's all you need as a photographer. You can have fun adding in something like Nik or After Effects, but you don't, or not After, sorry. I don't know which other program I was going to say. Nik is nice, Alien Skin, there's all these others. They're certainly fun. Photomatics for really a lot of HDR options. But Photoshop, Lightroom, it's all most of us need and works really nicely.
Yeah.
It's definitely the more consistently. I would say that Phase One, Capture One is more the professional or prosumer level.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's, I think, a lot. Hi, Beanie, come up here. Say hello to everybody. I think it is a lot easier to pick up on and learn than many of the other, even Photoshop. Photoshop is great, but there are just so many. I like Photoshop. There's just so many different ways you can do things that it's really easy to get really confused about. Way too many tools. And with Lightroom, they're non-destructive edits, so you can always go back to the original and re-edit it no matter what the process version is, no matter what your taste is at that given moment. Anyway, and I should also say that we're not sponsored by Adobe whatsoever. No. We just really, really love Lightroom. I mean, it's what we use to edit all of our pictures, even on our phone. I use the Lightroom mobile version.
I go back and forth. I'm excited. I have not tried the updated version yet. I think I want to take a step back from saying I love Lightroom. It works well for us. The Lightroom 6 updates are nice. They're nothing groundbreaking or amazing. And I have to say, the performance improvements that they've been touting, I'm not seeing much.
Yeah, I'm not seeing much either. In fact,
did you install it and run it?
Oh yeah, I've been editing. So today I actually, use some of the new tools and I use it to do all of my editing. So I would say that I don't see any speeds. My computer has been acting a little bit slow just in general, so I should do a restart and then probably reevaluate, but I haven't seen any performance improvements as of yet. Real quick though, I want to clarify, Erin asked just very recently, I'm trying to find her question. Oh, where is your question, Erin? There it is. What is the difference between LR6 and LRCC #noob? LRCC just means that you have the subscription service. You've purchased a subscription to Lightroom and Photoshop through the Creative Cloud service. So you pay a monthly fee of $9.99 to get both Photoshop and Lightroom together. Lightroom 6 is the standalone version. So if you have Lightroom 5 and you're not subscribed to Creative Cloud, you can just buy and download Lightroom 6. And then whatever the newest version of Lightroom is, so say they come out with Lightroom 7 in a year or two, buy that later. With Creative Cloud, you pay monthly, but any updates come free. And I should say any new version updates, so the bug fixes and things like that are included.
Right. The raw updates, the point releases, so 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, those will be free, but to go to 7 will of course cost. There is the difference though, you get the mobile tools in the editing sync. Did you say that with CC?
With CC, you get the mobile version, so you can download it to your Android phone or your iPhone and edit pictures on the go. So I use that all the time now. That is like my favorite. I mean, it's not perfect. It still has just a really big program. It takes up a lot of room in my phone, and I don't have a lot of space in my phone to begin with. So I run into issues of like just not enough space. But other than that, I love the control that pictures look. Sometimes my iPhone pictures look like DSLR photos sometimes because I have so much flexibility. I really like it.
Nice. Yeah. And I'm jealous of having you have a nice camera in your cell phone. People are saying, to really see the changes, you have to have a good GPU. That's true, and that, I have a decent one. I should say that I didn't feel like Lightroom was very slow to me. And so I am not seeing any kind of amazing performance improvements. I feel like it was pretty fast for me. I know there are some people that complain about speed of Lightroom. I tell you, I mean, Final Cut Pro drives me crazy, but that's totally different in working with large files. I've got a decent graphics card in here. It's got a 2 gigabyte GeForce GT750. That is not the best, but it's a decent one. And one of the reasons I did spec that out a little bit more was because I won for video editing, and I knew those changes were coming in Lightroom, or at least I hoped that it would use it in the future. So. Right, now other people are talking about the differences between Sony RAW and others because there's that little hubbub, and I mentioned this in my review, that Sony is actually compressing the RAW files in camera a little bit. It doesn't matter. It's something some people have latched onto, and it may matter for some people who are doing, some people have latched onto this as a really bad thing, and it's not. It's fine.
What was the bad thing that people have latched onto?
That Sony is compressing the RAW files in camera.
Oh.
As opposed to an uncompressed RAW.
So is that what's happening with the A7?
Yeah.
Oh.
They still look fine though.
They still look really awesome.
Yeah. So they could be a lot better.
Maybe.
Yep.
I do wonder, what would they look like if they were uncompressed? Would we get like an unreal amount of
dynamic range?
Dynamic range.
I don't think it's throwing out dynamic range.
Oh, okay.
Right. Thanks. And folks, if you are considering Lightroom, but you don't quite feel like you're there, but you want some of that power, Photoshop Elements is a reasonable alternative. It's a little bit of a blend of Lightroom and Photoshop. I tell you what I really like about Lightroom though is the organization tools. Episode 4 of our Lightroom Power Tools changed some people's lives because they saw the light in how to get organized with their files. And I've heard from people, I've not used Photoshop Elements lots, I've just dabbled in it a little bit, that the organization side of things isn't so good. And Mac users, you got the Photos option, which is, you know, came with the newest version of Mac OS X. And it's so funny, yesterday when I was frantically, not frantically, but close to it, like updating my Creative Cloud, come on Lightroom, come on Lightroom, come on Lightroom, a little pop-up from Apple came up and said, you have Photos now. Want to see what's new? And I felt that it was like this little hopeful voice that was like, forget all about Lightroom. This isn't what you're looking for. Come to Photos. But I've already got a video up that shows you, you know, kind of a brief overview of Photos back when it was in beta form, which there aren't any really changes. And it's a decent tool, but it doesn't give you the real kind of raw engine power that Lightroom does, plus the other tools. So, I think I'm hungry enough that we need to wrap up.
Okay.
All right. And Karenplex, you did say you sent me something a little while back that sounds familiar of a good discussion topic. See if you can find that and send it to me again. And we'll discuss it in a future video. That's a long silence. We need to get an assistant in here so that you are not just answering everybody's questions in the
But
chat.
I like it.
I know, I like it too, but we need to talk to these folks out here because watching live.
That's right. Yes,
So,
I'm sorry.
folks watching live, thank you so much for joining us. And those who aren't watching live, thanks for watching. Remember, you can give this video a quick thumbs up. That's an easy way to thank us for our time, and subscribe if you haven't already. Go check out Adorama Picks. Treat yourself and get a print made of one of your pieces of art. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You gonna press the stop button?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the meantime, just watch us look at our screens for a little while.